Okay, so imagine a theater production where the performers aren't just putting on a show, they're rewriting the script on what inclusion really means. That's the wild part here. Let me ask you this. When's the last time you saw a program where kids with disabilities weren't just included as an afterthought, but were the actual centerpiece of something revolutionary? Because that's exactly what's happening with this Penguin Project in Harrisburg. And honestly, the way they're structuring this, with mentors and dual productions, feels less like charity and more like a blueprint for how we should be building communities everywhere. Let's unpack this. The core idea here is simple but radical. Kids with developmental disabilities, from autism to Down syndrome, aren't just handed a role in a play. They're given co-creators, mentors their own age who aren't just stage assistants. They're collaborators. And that one-on-one dynamic? That's not just about logistics. It's about smashing the outdated model where helping means doing things for someone instead of with them. Personally, I think this mentorship model is the real unsung hero here. Because when you pair a neurotypical teen with someone who processes the world differently, you're not just teaching the latter how to act. You're teaching both how to listen, adapt, and lead in ways traditional theater never would. Now, the show itself, Dare to Dream Jr., uses Disney characters as a metaphor for imagination. Cute, right? But here's the twist. The message isn't just about dreaming big. It's about dreaming together. And honestly, that's way more subversive than it sounds. Because when you look at the history of disability representation in media, we've spent decades reducing people to inspirational tropes. But this is different. These kids aren't up there to make us feel warm and fuzzy. They're up there to say, we're capable, we're creative, and we're not waiting for permission to take up space. What many people don't realize is that theater like this isn't just feel-good programming. It's a quiet act of rebellion against a culture that still treats disability as a limitation first and a lived experience second. But here's what blew my mind. The mentors are putting on their own show, Legally Blonde Jr., while still supporting their Penguin partners. Let that sink in. These teenagers aren't just juggling rehearsals. They're navigating two entirely different creative worlds. And from my perspective, that's where this program transcends theater. These kids are learning how to multitask empathy. They're building emotional agility by switching between roles. Sometimes guide, sometimes co-star, sometimes student. That's not just a skill, it's a mindset. And if you take a step back, isn't that exactly what we need more of in a world that's obsessed with hyper-specialization? The ability to fluidly adapt, to wear multiple hats without losing your sense of purpose. What this really suggests is that inclusion isn't a checkbox, it's a practice. The Penguin Project didn't just grow from 31 to 58 participants in 4 years by accident. They grew because they treated this like a living ecosystem, not a static program. Directors didn't double down on the same playbook. They listened, they evolved, and they trusted that giving kids more agency would lead to deeper impact. And honestly, that raises a bigger question for me. Why don't we approach education this way? Imagine if schools treated every student's unique needs not as obstacles, but as opportunities to reinvent how all learning happens. Because what's happening on that stage in Harrisburg? It's not just a performance. It's proof that when you design systems to lift up the most marginalized, everyone benefits. So here's my closing thought. This isn't about theater. It's about how we define value in human potential. Every time one of those Penguin actors steps into the spotlight, they're not just performing a role. They're challenging us to rethink who gets to hold the mic in the first place. And honestly, that's the kind of disruption we need more of. What would your community look like if it embraced that philosophy? Let me know in the comments, because I'd love to hear your take on this.